What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the DFS OGs podcast with part 2, where we'll cover the afternoon games for you on Sunday. We'll cover Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, answer some user questions, but we'll keep the football talk rolling before we get into some nonsense, as we like to call it. So welcome back in. I'm Chris, Beermakers fan Prince, joined as always by the OGs, Derek, Chop. What's going on, guys? We're ready here for part 2. Derek, what do we think?
Yeah, definitely ready. We've only got 4 afternoon games and then the primetime slate, so it'll be quick, and then we'll get into the questions.
All right, Chop, we're ready for part 2. Any quick thoughts? Something you want to get off your chest here before we jump into the games?
I just vaguely, quickly took a look at the afternoon slate and the Monday and Sunday night slates, and man, I can't wait for that Monday night game. But we'll talk about it. But boy, I got to imagine the ratings on that thing are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, we don't get to just plug in Patrick Mahomes this week at quarterback and move on the main slate. But yeah, that should be a fun one. Even Sunday night should be a fun game. But let's start with our afternoon games. We have 4 of them, starting at 4 o'clock on the East Coast. Let's start with you, Chop. Seattle and Arizona. Seattle, a team, went home, got it done. Arizona continues to get lost, but I think the story here is Josh Rosen going to make his starting debut. I still have no reason and no explanation as to why in the hell they bring this guy in the game against Chicago at that point that they did, but at least he gets to prepare here against Seattle. That being said, any interest in Josh Rosen making his debut against the Seahawks?
I don't think so. Although, we are on, if you're just playing just the afternoon slate and there's not that many options, maybe you could make a case for him, but I probably want to pass. I don't think he's quite at the level that Baker Mayfield is as a rookie, and he just doesn't impress me as much as other rookies I've seen over the past few years. I'll pass on that. Really, I look at the game in general, and the only guy I really have any interest in is taking a shot on David Johnson to bounce back here. I don't want any piece of the passing game for Arizona. And looking at Seattle, I think it's a tough matchup. I don't think Chris Carson is as effective running the ball this week as he was last week. Russell Wilson is always a one-man show, but this is not an easy matchup this week on the road against Arizona. And Tyler Lockett would be the one guy I want to play, but I got a feeling Tyler Lockett is going to get locked down by Peterson, so I can't play him, and that takes away the best weapon for Wilson. This is a really tough game for me to get behind outside of David Johnson.
Yeah, pretty low total here, 38 and a half. So I'm with you. Not a lot to get excited about in this one. Derek, agree, disagree? You seeing something I'm not seeing?
Yeah, I was going to hit on the total. It's tied with the Jaguars game for the lowest of the week. So not a lot to love here. I do think if you're playing the afternoon slate, you could definitely look at David Johnson. Maybe the change at quarterback is going to help him a little bit. But I have no idea what this coaching staff's doing. I mean, they took David Johnson out of the game in that 3rd and short at the late part of the game just because he missed a block or something the previous play. I can't believe what they're doing. They don't have Patrick Peterson shadowing the number 1 receiver from the opposing team. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing right now. So if it's the case again and we hear that, Peterson's just going to play his one side of the field, then I don't mind looking at Lockett in tournaments. But that's about it for me. I mean, Carson had the 100 yards, but 32 carries for 102 yards, average of only 3.2. He's not really a big part of the passing game, so I agree with you guys. This one's pretty ugly.
They're dangling the carrot here in David Johnson, though. 6,600 is a guy I'm certainly going to take a look at. I know the struggle's been real. I know they're not utilizing him, but that is a great price to pay for a guy if they do figure it out. And this is not the Seattle defense of old, so very much interested in David Johnson at that price point. All right, next game, Derek, Cleveland and Oakland. Baker Mayfield show was alive and well the other night. Looked very good out there, looked like he belonged, and I think that change finally permanent. And then you have the Raiders, who it's just bad. I don't know what good we can say about the Raiders here. So to me, this is the spot I want some Cleveland. Maybe run it back with a little bit of Oakland. What do you think?
I mean, the Raiders have built a lead in every game so far this season, right?
Yeah, sounds right.
And then just falling apart. I wish this game was in Cleveland. I would feel a lot better about Mayfield. I still think he's fine. 5,300 is a good price point for him. He just looked so good and so in control last week against the Jets. This will be his first start, so maybe the pressure will get to him a little bit more. But I think it's a boost to this passing game as a whole. I like Landry. I think it's a good bounce back spot for Njoku. Only saw 2 targets last week, but caught them both for 36 yards. Maybe you finally get him going a little bit. 3,200 is a good price point for him. Still not a ton of interest in the running game. Maybe look at Carlos Hyde. If they're playing from ahead, he'll get a bunch of carries, but it's one of those things where you just got to predict the game flow in hopes that they're winning. And if not, then it could be a Duke Johnson type of game. As far as Oakland goes, I have no idea what to do with them right now. I mean, Amari Cooper was shut down by the Dolphins last week. We saw Jordy Nelson have that big game out of nowhere. I don't really want to target anyone here. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe take a shot on the Browns defense.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I really like Antonio Callaway in this one. Baker Mayfield and Callaway have a great connection in the preseason. They spent a lot of time practicing together, and Mayfield's going to take his shot. So I like that pairing. It may kind of fly under the radar a bit. Chop, thoughts? Browns and Raiders, real tough to get excited about this Oakland team right now.
Yeah, the Oakland offense here is really difficult to get behind in this game. Cleveland's not a bad defense. Amari, obviously, huge letdown last week after like a bad first week, just an incredible second week, and then back to Amari last week. So it's hard to get behind any of that stuff. For Cleveland, that is kind of exciting now to be able to, check out some things here for Cleveland. So Mayfield's going to inject the passing game with some enthusiasm here. I think Jarvis Landry benefits from it, but I think maybe in terms of what they've done so far this year, the biggest beneficiary is going to be David Njoku. He's a guy who I'll plug. Like, his salary now is almost rock bottom across a lot of sites. I'll definitely plug him in here. I think that Mayfield will be able to get him the ball a lot more than Tyrod Taylor did. So I'm all in on Njoku this week, and Landry will have a good game, and I'll pass on the rookie Callaway, and just hope it's a Mayfield game, passing the ball around. No, and that's the way I'll roll with it.
No love for Callaway, huh? 10 targets in that one. The price actually went down. I mean, he didn't do a lot with the 10 targets, but I think that connection is interesting. And Mayfield, a cheap quarterback option. We know a lot of people are going to be looking down in the cheap seats, 5,300 against this Oakland defense. Don't hate that combination of those two. All right, next game. New Orleans and the Giants here, Chop. New Orleans went into Atlanta and got it done, with the usual suspects. We know it's Breeze. We know it's Kamara. We know it's Michael Thomas. As for the Giants, another team, they got it done in Houston, but coming back home here, everything hasn't looked great for them. Does it start to look better here against this New Orleans defense this week?
New Orleans is getting shredded on defense, so maybe it is. And Vegas is giving us a total of 50. That's a pretty big line right there. So maybe there's something to that this week. Maybe this is the week the Giants get back on track. I think Odell is obviously a matchup-proof guy any week, and this would be no exception this week. He's like week one, he put up a great stat line against Jalen Ramsey, and then last week or 2 weeks ago another good one, and like he's pretty much got a super high floor, Odell does, and now he's even if he gets – I don't know if he gets shadowed by Lattimore because they'll move Odell around enough, but even if he does, Lattimore has been very, very beatable this year out of nowhere. So Odell would be my choice to finally get in the end zone this week and do some damage. And maybe Barkley. Saquon's looked pretty good, but he doesn't have a lot of running room, but he's just a very talented guy who makes the most out of the very little he's given. And on the flip side, the Saints, you could have pretty much stacked the Saints offense with a couple of guys the other way in every week this year and probably pulled off an incredible finish in the Millionaire Maker. That's how bad their defense has been and how good their offense has been, and I don't expect very much different this week. It's very centered around Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. You can run them in there. It's revitalized Drew Brees this year, having to pass so much without the strong defense. So those are the three guys. They're a really tight core team right there with those three guys. I like them all.
Yeah, it's nice for stacking purposes. We know where the ball's going to go. So as far as Saquon goes, 22 or more fantasy points in 3 straight games. So he's getting it done. Derek, Kamara's up to 9,600. Can we possibly pay that price this week against the Giants?
I think you can, but if you plug him in, you basically have $5K per player to spend on the rest of your lineup. We kept hearing time and time again that they're not going to give Kamara more than 20 touches. Well, last week he got 31 touches, including 15 receptions. I know that game went into overtime, but you know what? They're going to keep feeding him the ball. And like we talked about in our Roto Academy course, we like targeting these offenses that are very concentrated, and the Saints certainly have one. It is worth noting that this is going to be their first outdoor game of the season. They opened with 2 home games and then obviously went to Atlanta last week. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue to put up points at that high of a rate. But I still like Kamara. I still like Michael Thomas. He broke the NFL record for most catches through the first 3 games of the season. He has 38 catches already, which is pretty crazy. And I think he's done it on 40 targets. Incredible efficiency there. So I'll go right back to those 2. And then the Giants, we have to have interest in them. And, there's going to be a couple players in this offense that have big games. It's just a matter of, deciding which ones it's going to be. I agree with Chop. I do think Odell is matchup proof. Not too worried about him being shadowed by Lattimore. Even if he is, I think that's a matchup that he can win. And I don't think Lattimore travels in the slot all that much. Odell does run some snaps out of the slot. They move him around a lot. So I like him. And if you are worried about the matchup with Lattimore, then certainly look at Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram would be viable as well. But the guy I love the most is going to be Saquon Barkley. In PPR scoring, he has scored 24, 25, and 23 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks of the season, and it doesn't even seem like he's had that good of a game yet. This could be a breakout performance for him. 8,100 certainly seems like a really good price point.
Yeah, Shepard's going to be one of my favorite sneaky plays of the week, 4,900. Evan Ingram, I don't think he plays this week, so that's going to be a lot of attention on Beckham. Barkley could leave Shepard. Even a guy like Cody Latimer at 3,300 could enter the conversation here, soaking up some of those Ingram targets. So love Shepard under 5K. Agree on Odell. In this game overall, you're going to want some exposure here because these teams are going to definitely put some points on the board. All right, moving on, Derek. San Francisco and the Chargers. San Francisco, they got a black cloud over their head. They lose McKinnon. Now they lose Jimmy Garoppolo. So C.J. Beathard, beat hard, whatever you want to call him, is back in our lives against the Chargers. Does this just tank the entire 49ers offense for us?
I think it has to. We got to feel for the 49ers fans. Jimmy G out for the season. Definitely rough. Beathard was captain check down last season, so I don't really have much hope for this Niners offense. I do think it's a good spot for the Chargers defense. Do you know if Joey Bosa is going to be back yet?
I have not seen definitive yet.
If he is, just fire up this Chargers defense. They're 3,900. I'm glad that they priced them up a little bit. And we saw last week paying up a defense with the Vikings doesn't always work out, but certainly a good spot on paper. And then for the Chargers offense, I think it's probably just going to be the same guys as usual. I like Melvin Gordon quite a bit in a game where they're going to be playing from ahead. Got to think he's going to have quite a bit of touchdown equity in this one. And then Keenan Allen coming off of the poor game. I know Mike Williams, had the big outing, but I still think Keenan Allen is going to be the guy you want to target in this offense. The only concern would be if they get off to a huge lead, what they do with the passing game. But overall, not a ton of interest in the Niners.
I'm going to give you a sneaky 3K crapper, as our boy Dan Bach likes to say. Kyle Juszczyk, a pass-catching running back. Derek, you mentioned C.J. Beathard loves to throw the running back. Carlos Hyde had about 1 million targets when he was under center last season. Breida's banged up. Alf Morris is hurt. He doesn't catch the ball anyway. Kyle Juszczyk, just 3,100. So, Chop, am I crazy there? Are we just avoiding the 49ers? Any interest in a guy like Juszczyk? And then Chargers, seems like all systems go there.
Juszczyk. You'd have to really sell me on that one a little more before I roster some Juszczyk. But I agree. I think Beathard tanks most of this offense. So I can't get behind Goodwin, or maybe Pierre Garçon, maybe a little George Kittle. But they're going to be playing from behind, like you guys said. So I don't know, man. It's tough for me to get behind any of these guys. I think this is a blowout. I think it's a good spot for the Chargers defense. On paper, it looks like Chargers defense, Melvin Gordon, a solid pairing. But that a lot of times doesn't work out like that. Phillip Rivers could throw his 5 touchdowns here. But it does look like Mike Williams is the guy who's kind of taken over the number 2 spot with Travis Benjamin out of this lineup. It's been Mike Williams getting targeted the most outside of Keenan Allen, so he's kind of thumped Tyrell Williams down the pole a little bit. So Rivers got some good targets, man. He's got some good receivers to throw to. I think he could really have a monster day here, just even in a blowout. One of those things that you look up at his line and he threw for 300 plus and 5 touchdowns before they got him out of the game.
Yeah, Mike Williams still underpriced, in my opinion, 4,500. So another guy that you're looking for a cheap receiver. There's quite a few of them on this slate, but he certainly stands out for some value. So Sunday night, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. We don't have showdown pricing, but we'll cover the analysis and give you guys what we're looking at anyway. So, Chop, what do you think? High scoring total here, a high total in Vegas, for this game. Interest level, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I think there's a lot of interest. Who stands out as the guys you must have?
It's interesting. You don't usually get like a 50-plus point total when Pittsburgh and Baltimore square off. You used to, those used to be the terrible defensive sluggish games that you didn't even want to watch unless you were a fan of the team. Now we get a 51 total here. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And I would expect, Antonio Brown to have a decent game or a good game. But man, has Juju not just really burst onto the scene, man, and really put him in his rear? It's weird the way he's done. I know he's a talented guy. He always was. But, Big Ben's got some good weapons there. Again, James Conner after it's weird. I faded him the first week because I didn't like the ownership and what I had seen at him in previous years. And it just kind of built up this little bandwagon thing where I faded him the next week too. And then I faded him the next week. I just couldn't. And I think I'm in the same spot again this week. I don't want to roster James Conner against Baltimore here. I know, for the price tag now, he needs to start finding the end zone. The little checkdowns are nice, but I'm out on James Conner. I like the passing game here. And what about now? We have to be. There's no way we can make it through this podcast and not talk about what Vance McDonald did to Chris Conte on Monday Night Football. That was pretty awesome. And McDonald is just another weapon that Big Ben can throw to. And every once in a while, he has these blow-up games because he's actually a really good receiving tight end. So you just never know when Vance McDonald is going to have that big game. It could happen again this week. The Ravens, John Brown. That's about the extent of my love for Baltimore is jumping on John Brown.
Yeah, those running backs, both guys are good, but they kind of cannibalize each other, Allen and Collins. So you never know which one it's going to be. But Vance McDonald, that was a big boy play there, Chop. He just put him down. And a lot of people on Twitter, this was funny last night, were tagging at Chris Conte. Turns out at Chris Conte is a weatherman in Nashville, I believe. So his Twitter was getting blown up with people making fun of him getting stiff-armed. And he had a good time with it. So make sure you go check that out. But man, that was one of those posterized plays, we'll call them. So
Big T says that's what it would look like when the Siege gets a hold of Draft Cheat in the ring.
I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to that match for sure. So maybe we'll do a little separate podcast previewing the old boxing match if it comes to fruition. But Derek, let's talk Sunday Night Football here. Ravens, Steelers, Chop mentioned, pretty high total we normally don't see in this game. So 51, I think a lot of guys are in play. Who are some of your favorites?
All right, so before I get there, it's trivia time. How many points have the Ravens averaged over their last 8 regular season games?
Are you asking us?
Yep.
I'm going to go 29.
32.
Got it, Beer.
Oh.
Bam!
32 points per game. That's pretty crazy for an offense that we generally don't think of as a high-scoring offense. This line opened at 48.5 all the way up to 51.5, like you guys mentioned. I definitely think the over was in play at 48.5. Still like it at 51.5, to be honest. I think there are a ton of plays in this game, and if you were playing this, you're probably doing it in the primetime slate. While I do agree that James Conner feels overpriced, we have to roster 2 running backs in this primetime slate, and the other options are Kareem Hunt, the guys from Denver, and then we have the time split in Baltimore. So I do think Connor is going to be viable just because there are a lack of other options at the position in the primetime slate. I like Joe Flacco, especially if he's going to be playing from behind, like pairing him up with John Brown. Crabtree showed some signs of life. He's probably more of a possession receiver at this point in his career, but we've seen the Steelers defense just get burned by anyone and everyone. So I wouldn't rule out anyone in this offense. As far as the Steelers go, it's just the usual guys. I like Big Ben. I like Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. And then I like the Vance McDonald call. That was good. I do think a lot of people will be chasing those points, but he is the best receiving tight end in this offense, and he's $500 cheaper than Jesse James.
Yeah, 2,900. If that price sticks, he's going to be a very popular play. But DraftKings, FanDuel, if anybody's listening, can we get a higher level tournament for the 2-game slate? The Sunday Mondays, the Monday Thursdays. I know the single game showdown slates are very, very profitable, very popular. That's fine. Leave them there. But let's grow these 2-game slates. I mean, these are fun, the Sunday, Monday games. So hopefully we continue to see some growth there. But that game looks like fun. Derek, let's get to Mr. Mahomes in Kansas City going into Denver here. This offense looks absolutely unstoppable right now. We know Denver can be a tough place to play. Let's not forget, Mahomes went in Week 17 with some scrubs. I know it was against backups, but looked good last season in this matchup. Does the magic continue here for Mahomes against Denver?
It's pretty crazy the level of efficiency that he's played at so far. He's averaging right around 30 pass attempts per game. He hasn't really done much in terms of rushing. We know he has the ability, but he hasn't really shown it yet. And he's averaging like 35 fantasy points per game. It's pretty crazy what he's been able to do. At this point, I'm fully on board. I don't mind the matchup against the Broncos. I know this is a tough place to play, but at this point, I don't think anybody's going to stop this offense. I am worried about Kareem Hunt. He was kind of bailed out a little bit by those 2 touchdowns. He's just not involved in the passing game, so he's going to be sort of a touchdown or bust. And there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this offense, so we certainly can get those touchdowns. But for me, I like running backs that can rack up some points in the backfield, catching the ball a little bit. So I'm a little worried about Hunt. Mahomes, you can definitely pair him up with Hill, Watkins, and Kelsey. And then on the Broncos side, I think it's a nice bounce-back spot for this pass offense. The Chiefs have just been so bad in all phases of their defense. They haven't really needed to play good defense to win. But, I like Keenum. I like Sanders. I think that's a great pairing. Demaryius Thomas just continues to let us down week in and week out. Maybe he's going to be the low-owned guy that, wins somebody this prime time or showdown slate. And, as far as the running backs go, I just don't know. Philip Lindsay throwing punches at the bottom of the pile, that was interesting. He got kicked out for that. As long as he doesn't, face a suspension, then I think it's probably going to be a situation where I just avoid this time split.
Yeah, I think Keenum, if you're talking about the 2-game slate, people are either going to play Ben or they're going to play Mahomes. So if you want to be different, it's risky, but I don't mind Keenum here against a bad defense in Kansas City. Saves you some money, saves you some ownership. So, Chop, wrap us up for the analysis here, Chiefs and Broncos.
So, Derek mentioned James Conner, and there's just not a lot of options on this small slate. And I feel like one option you could roll with is playing Freeman and Lindsey in the same lineup on a short slate. And then just sit back and hope that that's the way that Denver has game planned, that they're going to control the ball, control the clock. They're going to use both running backs, and they're going to keep Mahomes off the field. The key to winning these smaller slates is you find the angle you want to go with, and you take a stand on it, and you don't waver on it. So on paper, it looks really phenomenal to say a 56-point total, and this is going to be a shootout, and I want all KC players and these Denver players, but in reality, it's football. You don't know what's going to happen. Buffalo proved that. So Denver could very well control the clock here, use Freeman, use Lindsey, grind it out, get first downs, keep Mahomes off the field and out of rhythm, and win the game that way. And so I think you could play both these guys on the same roster. Other than that, Sanders looks great this year. I think Demaryius could have a big game if they're forced to throw, which I know they don't want to get into that situation, so I'm a little leery of that. And then on the other side, of course, you could take Tyreek. He's matchup proof. He could beat anybody. Mahomes does look great. And Kelsey is Kelsey. He's the second best tight end in the league. So all viable plays, but if you want to be different and take a stand, I don't mind taking both Denver running backs and hoping that angle plays off for us.
I like that call, and it's cheap. If these prices stick, again, these aren't the showdown prices. I'm using the Thursday through Monday pricing is all we have as of this recording, but 45 for Lindsey, 44 for Freeman. It's going to save you a lot of salary and let you spend up on an Antonio Brown or Schuster or some of those other high-end guys, Mahomes. So I like that call a lot, Chop. All right, that'll wrap us up for the analysis, guys. Any final thoughts on the football portion of the podcast before we move on to some fun user questions? Derek?
Nope, ready to get into it.
Chop?
It looks like a fun weekend. I'm ready to bounce back, man. That was a good showing in week 2, poor showing in week 3. It's time to bounce back now.
Yeah, it's important to look back and look at, was it a good play? Was it a bad play? Was it bad process, good process? You always want to do that. But some of that stuff is just variance that just happened this week. So, don't beat yourself up too bad. If your process has been good, stick with it. If not, maybe it's time to make a maneuver and switch things up. But looking forward to week 4. And again, thanks for everybody for listening. All right, let's get into some questions here. We'll take a few minutes and then we'll wrap things up for part 2 of the DFS OGs podcast. Let's start with our very own Aaron Hendricks, the hazy one. And Chop, I'm going to go to you here first. How often do you see your wife during football season? And in a related question, how often do you consummate said marriage during football season?
This is a very weird question from Aaron.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a little bit. It's almost borderline, stepping over that line. I don't know what he's crossing a line here somewhere. I don't know where it is. How often do I see my wife every day for multiple hours a day? I can't really get around it. It's not really a choice I have. But yeah, I get what he's saying. It does. The thing about what I do, and I'm sure Derek's the same way, and I'm sure Beer's the same way. Like, you've got this daytime where they're usually at their, typical 9-to-5 job doing that thing. That's when we're alone. That's when we're doing our work. But when they get home, you better be able to devote some time. You better kind of drop away from your computer for a little bit and still spend some time with the family, or else you're going to have a really, really horrible personal life, and you don't want that to happen. So as far as part 2 of that, I like to keep it steady, man. I like to keep it, be on a nice normal schedule. So, I don't want to get too in depth. It will be a little bit personal there, but suffice to say, when Friday night rolls around, it's just fun time in the Chop household.
There you go. All right, Derek, same question to you, buddy. How often do you see the wife? And go on from there, whatever you want to talk about.
So I know there are a lot of experts in the industry that when it's football season, they don't really pay attention to their family. That's not really me. Yeah, like Chop, I see my wife just as much during the NFL season as I do any other time of the year. Maybe on Sunday mornings, I'll go down in my dungeon and, not see him for a couple hours. But she likes to watch football with me, so I definitely see my family a lot no matter what. As far as, the sex, it's about the same, although, if I have any big GPP wins, maybe that'll ramp up a little bit.
There you go. So for me, it's simple. I couldn't do all this without my wife. She's great. She's understanding. She gives me the space, but I agree with you guys. You got to find some time for your family and not just push them off because it's football season. And it's a good lesson for anybody out there. I get this question a lot. How do you balance everything, with life and DFS and fantasy and work? And to me, it's family first. We put a lot of time into this. I have a ton of fun with it, but you got to put that family first. And I'm with Chop, regular schedule, and I'm good with it. You can't just kind of pop in. It's football season. You're not around. Then you try to pop in and, hey, baby, how you doing? And that's not going to work. So got to find that balance. Now, speaking of wives, one of our wives popped in with some good questions here, Derek. This was good. So, first question. If each of you were a movie character, who would you be and why? And you can't answer for yourself. So, I'm going to go first here. And I don't know why this came to mind, but I think of Derek as Lance Harbor from that football movie.
Oh, that's a good one.
What the hell is the name
Varsity
of that?
Blues.
Varsity Blues,
That's a classic, man.
Yeah, the quarterback, small town, and just running the show. And I don't know why. Lance Harbor came to mind for Derek.
That's a good one. I did think of that one. For Derek, I see Derek as like the real sensitive guy, real sensitive kind of the guy, quiet. So I'm going to go with like some character from an Owen Wilson movie, maybe like maybe Marley and Me. Owen Wilson in that little doggy movie, Marley. He's real sensitive and got the blonde hair and all that. So I'm going to go with Derek's Owen Wilson. Any Owen Wilson sappy movie.
There you go. Derek is Owen Wilson. Derek, you got anything for this question?
I don't have anything good. I thought we were answering for ourselves, but I'll throw one out there for Chop. He seems like real romantic. So I'll go Edward Cullen from Twilight. That seems like Chop to me.
Chop, yeah, he probably gets the wife, uses them big words, the luscious and the exquisite, and that
Sparkles in the sunlight when he takes his shirt
ladies
off.
like that
Oh,
stuff.
look at that. That's what you guys
All right.
making me blush.
Derek, if you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any problems with anybody. I wouldn't be getting any fights. Maybe I'd be. Yeah, I have no good answer for this one, to be honest with you.
Mine would be streaking through Lambeau Field, just hammered, drunk, and that would be what I would be arrested for. So, some kind of drunk and disorderly would be. But we're getting up there in age. That might have happened 20 years ago, but who knows? Maybe you have a few too many. Chop, you get arrested. What happened?
I probably had some drugs on me. That's not that I would have them on me. It's what my family would think happened. Oh, he got arrested. Oh, dude, he probably had some drugs on him.
All right, and the final one from the great Miss Noto. What would be the worst sports player name you could ever give a child?
Tiger.
Oh, Derek, do you care to respond?
Tiger?
That's oh, now here we go. We're gonna get a little tussle here.
I had to sit there. I had to listen to you look at your Twitter all weekend, man. I gotta exact some revenge. You made me sit through all the Tiger Woods tweets this weekend. Come on, man.
I told you to hit the mute button.
Still has no pants on, and it's Tuesday. Derek, worst sports player name you could give a child?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of them out there. So I'm just Googling some old ones. Coco Chris, that's a pretty good name.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I got one. And I loved some Manute Bol, but how the hell do you name your kid Bol? Bol. B-O-L.
That's a good one.
I mean, come on, man. We got to be a little bit more creative than that. All right. From Josh ADHD, best shower beer you've ever had. And Derek, you look for some clarification here. So you answer this however you want to answer this.
Yeah, so I tried to get some clarification. Is this me in the shower drinking a beer, or is this me dumping a beer over my head as a shower?
And whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I guess they got to be different answers because I don't like those stout beers, so I'd probably do one of those. I don't mind wasting that, pouring that over my head. As far as drinking a beer in the shower, it's got to be something light. Can't be too heavy while you're showering, especially if you got the significant other in there. So I would just go with like a Coors Light.
You see, any beer if the wife's in there. We'll go back to that last question. That's my answer to this question. So it don't matter the damn beer. Just give me a beer, give me the wife. I'm happy. Chop, shower beer.
My answer to that would be simply like most normal people, I can wait the 20 minutes until I get out of the shower to actually drink the beer.
That's not normal, man. You gotta have some fun.
I think I've taken a beer in the shower maybe once my whole life. That's not my thing. I don't particularly. I don't get the zeal of taking the beer in the shower. Maybe a hot tub, that's different. But we're talking a real shower here. Hot tub, yeah. Give me a little, a sixer there by my side and some ice. But in that case, anyway, I'm a simple beer guy. Give me a Budweiser, Bud Light. Like I've said before, I'm not the trendy IPA guy.
All right, let's chop with the hot tub beer. All right, let's wrap it up. Larry Sorge wants to know, would you rather be able to watch any NFL game in person at no cost but have to be a vegan, or eat whatever you want for free and never watch an NFL game again? Chop.
Give me the first option. I first of all, I don't think I would not want to live without football. No, I want the option that says that I don't want to not be able to watch football again. As far as the food, I can sacrifice a little food. I could stand to use a little sacrifice on the food anyway. I'm getting older now. I need to drop some pounds. I don't need to force all that red meat down my throat. So I'm cool with being a vegan if I get to keep watching football. You can't take football out of my life.
Now this says NFL, Chop. I know you're a big college guy. So the answer staying the same?
Yeah, I can't not have football.
Derek, same question to you. Would you rather be able to watch an NFL game in person at no cost but have to be a vegan, or eat whatever you want for free and never watch an NFL game again?
Yeah, pretty simple for me. If I stopped eating meat, I would just wither away. So for my livelihood, I have to take the second one. As long as I can still play fantasy football, that's my real passion. I love watching the game as well. But if I can still play fantasy football and not watch the games, I would definitely take options.
Okay, well, let's change the question for Derek and replace NFL with NBA.
See, as long as I can still play, I think I would be okay with it.
Not a big sports watcher, period, huh?
I am. I've gotten accustomed to some TV shows on my TV all night, all day. Kids TV. It's great.
Oh, yeah. The kids take over that damn TV. You're lucky to get any time in. Look, I'm going to be honest. I'm a big dude. Give me the food. I'll sacrifice some NFL. I'll watch some college, like Derek said. I can play some fantasy, so I don't need to watch the football. Give me the food. So that'll wrap us up here for part 2. Some great user questions, so thank you for that. Hopefully the analysis helps you guys take down some big scores. Guys, we've talked about a lot: football, life, food, sex. We've covered a lot of things here. Final thoughts to wrap us up for week 4, Derek.
Yeah, just, play to your strengths. If you, have a team that's consistently above the 50-50 line, just play more cash games. If you're one of those people that like to make a bunch of tournament lineups in hopes to cash out on one of those big prizes, then, play more tournaments. And yeah, it should be a fun week. Don't be afraid to go back to the players that burned you the week before. Except for Bortles. Don't go back to him.
Yeah, don't do that. But it's very important, like Derek said, look back at your results. I know that the calendar turns over quickly. We're already focused on the next week, but you can learn a lot about yourself as a player, breaking down other people's lineups. So make sure you guys are doing that each and every week. Can't stress that enough. So, Chop, final thoughts here for week 4.
Yeah, sometimes you see a week like week 3 and it slaps you in the face and tells you that this is still just a game and you really can't predict it with some of the things that happened in week 3. And so don't take your process seriously, but don't go don't try to be so meticulous in your research that you're trying to cover everything. Just use it, have fun with it. That's when I find you have the best experiences, having fun with it.
Absolutely. Have some fun. Can't say it any better than that. So that's going to wrap us up again for the DFS OGs podcast right here on RotoGrinders.com. The football's over. I'm going to go get me a shower beer here, Chop. So for Chop, for Noto, I am Beer, saying salut here for week 4. We'll see you right back here for the podcast for week 5. We're out of here.